Hello, my friends. My name is Ariana Pinner. I am a results coach, a meditation and yoga teacher, and I'm here to talk to you today about stillness, the concept of stillness. What is it really? Because when we understand the concept of being still, even if we have frantic and really busy lives, we will be able to live our lives with more clarity and more ease and more intentionality. When I talk about stillness, there are a couple of myths that come up that I love debunking them and explaining what stillness is and what it isn't. And I'd really love the opportunity to do that with you today. When most people hear the word stillness, they think about someone sitting cross-legged on a mountaintop in this state of bliss, that they have completely silenced the mind. And whilst that can be a form of stillness, it's not always the full picture. Stillness isn't about forcing yourself to be motionless. It's not about shutting down your thoughts or trying to find a state of bliss during every single closed eye practice. It's more about building a sense of deep awareness and presence. It is a self-awareness practice, actually. And it's a practice that allows us to move through life responding to the world around us and our own thoughts rather than reacting to them, which puts us in the driver's seat of our lives. Because quite often, if you think about it, when you react to something happening, that reaction, at least 80 or 90% of the time, that reaction is something that you regret. That reaction is generally something that has happened and you feel sheepish about, or you feel guilty for, or you have shame over. And so the intention behind stillness and practicing stillness in a closed-eyed position, whether it be through a breathwork practice or a meditation session, isn't so that you only sit in that session and find bliss in that session alone. It's a practice ground. It's a breathing space so that when you get up out of your closed eye practice, you live your life, and the lessons that you learn on your meditation cushion or in your stillness practice, those are the lessons that you take out into your life without necessarily needing to think your way through it or white knuckle your way through life. So there are common myths about stillness that I've actually got noted down. So if you see me looking down, I want to make sure I don't forget them. The first one is that stillness means doing nothing. Stillness isn't necessarily about being motionless. You can cultivate a sense of stillness in your mind by creating space, whether it be in your mind or in your body as well, because a lot of us find it very difficult to sit still for a long period of time. And so we have to really regulate our nervous system so that we're able to be still. This is why I don't just talk about meditation, breath work practices on their own. I speak about a very soft, restorative, yin-like movement practice as well, because we're learning to open up the body and create space within the body, teaching the body how to be still so that the mind can follow suit. We're not necessarily looking at the mind becoming blank. We are creating space for thoughts to come and go without reacting to those thoughts, without getting caught up in the narrative or the story of those thoughts. So you could be moving, you could be walking, you could be painting, you could be talking to someone in a conversation, you could be listening to someone and then speaking back with them and still be in a state of inner stillness. You can still be moving and in your life, but have a sense of calmness and clarity that you bring to whatever it is that you're doing. You're not mindlessly going about the things in your life. You are very intentional about how you show up for those things. That's what I'm talking about when I'm inviting my clients or my students in to a stillness practice. The second myth that I want to bust is that you have to silence your thoughts. The mind is designed to think, just the same way as the lungs will breathe and the heart will beat. The mind is going to think thoughts. And of course, there are certain styles of meditation, and depending on how long you've been in these practices and depending what style meditation you choose to do, there are indeed practices that can help you to completely silence your thoughts and enter into what we call the void or the force field, or a space within your mind that is completely still, a space within your mind that is blank, darkness. It's a void. When I'm speaking about stillness to my coaching clients or my students, that's not what I'm referring to when it comes to stillness. I am talking about having a practice where you can observe your thoughts without attachment. I'm talking about a practice where you can rest in the awareness of what's going on around you, rather than getting caught up in every passing idea or story or narrative. Here's how it shows up in your life. You practice this stillness practice where you close your eyes and you witness your thoughts come and go, and you don't get attached to the thoughts. You don't get pulled down by the narrative or the story of those thoughts. In your life, this looks like you having a conversation with someone and that person saying something to you. And instead of you going down the rabbit hole of how you're going to respond to that person, you stay focused on what they're saying. You don't get caught up in the story of what you think and how you feel and what that person said wrong. You stay with what is happening in front of you. And then afterwards, when you respond, you are then able to communicate with that person in front of you. This goes on to the next myth. Stillness or meditation is only for yogis or monks or meditation experts or people who've been practicing it. One of my favorite lines from someone is that I can't sit still for long enough. I'm not able to meditate. I'm not able to find a stillness practice. And the thing is that anyone can experience stillness. It's a skill. Just like anything that you learn in life, you have to practice it to get better at it. Some people have the tendency to cultivate the skill easier than others, and that's okay. Not everybody is going to be a natural at everything. So stillness, with all of the benefits that you receive from a stillness practice, it's a no-brainer. Practicing stillness in its variety of different ways can really help you in your life. It's a skill that can be woven into your life, not only in the way that you practice, but also then how you take that skill and deliver it out into the world. It's about leading a team with a sense of presence. It's about being a parent who is super responsive to their kids as opposed to being reactive. It is making a cup of tea and being super present with how you are making your brew, without just doing it mindlessly and forgetting about whether or not you put the honey in or not. How many times have you done that? This is just because while you're doing something, you're thinking about something else. And the idea with stillness practice is mindfulness in action. It's about being super mindful about what you're doing in the moment that you're doing it, and you're calming out all other distractions and all other thoughts and noise, and you're being really present on the thing that you're doing. Number 4 is that stillness is passive. This myth is so good because stillness is actually an active choice. It's not passive at all. Anybody who is cultivating a stillness practice, and I use that in the present term because I think that this is something that we just do for the rest of our lives. It's a lifestyle. It's a choice to practice stillness and make it a part of who you are. And yes, you get better at it, but the better you become, the more you learn that it's an ongoing process. When we start to look at stillness being an active choice, I want you to remember that it takes practice to pause, to breathe, to not get swept away by distractions. That in itself is not passive. Yes, of course, you get better at doing the practice, whether you're sitting down in a closed eye process or you're out in the world. There are always situations and people who come into your life that test your ability to be present. And so it is a very active decision to incorporate this type of awareness in your life. And then the 5th and final myth is that you need long periods of uninterrupted time for stillness work. And yes, that does help, but micro moments of stillness, whether it's a deep breath before responding to an email or answering a call, or it's closing your eyes for 10, 20 seconds between meetings, this can shift your entire state. And the reason that I teach a 10, 20-minute stillness practice, non-negotiable daily, preferably in the morning if you can, but any time of day, is because it teaches us how to hold space for our emotions, for the thoughts that come up for us. And the more we're able to practice those 10, 20 minutes a day, the more potent those 10, 20 seconds become between meetings or before you answer a call, because you're teaching your body what it's like to be in the awareness of your thoughts and your circumstance. And once your body and your mind learn what that's like, then when you give it little snippets of stillness practices throughout your day, it remembers, it picks it up very quickly. It's like, oh yes, we've done this before. We did this morning. Yep, cool. And you have a greater chance at de-stressing, at regulating your nervous system, at bringing you from frustration and feeling really angry. It brings you down to at least a 5, if not less, just simply because you've trained your body, your mind knows what it's doing, and now it's just a case of remembering. So just to recap, stillness is a way of being. It is about remaining in the middle of life's demands. It's not getting sucked into stories and narratives. It's about learning to move through your life with grace and ease rather than urgency and reactivity. It's about learning how to respond over reacting. It's about feeling grounded even when the world around you feels really chaotic. It's about making decisions from a place of clarity rather than feeling stressed out or feeling like you have to, should, must, all those sorts of loaded words. It's about leading with presence and intention. And this is what the Stillness Method is really all about. It's not about just teaching meditation or breathwork or a yin practice or yoga nidra. Whilst those practices are so incredibly important and they are the cornerstones and the foundations of everything that I teach, it's really about teaching you embodiment tools to integrate this ability to be still into your everyday life. And whilst we lean on these practices to get us into the habit of being still, it really is about practicing them daily rather than learning the theory on how they work. So the next time you think that stillness means sitting in silence, I want you to ask yourself, what would it feel like to bring stillness into my life, into my work, into my relationships, into my daily routines? Because the answer to that is where the real transformation begins, my friends. If you are interested in learning this method, there are links below wherever the description is. And I welcome discussions about this method. Anything that you've got to add to any of the examples that I've given, please let me know. And I hope that this video has debunked the myths on what stillness isn't and giving you some examples of what it actually is and how you can incorporate into your life and why you'd want to. All right, my friends, until next time. Bye for now.